With Paul's last event being a near disaster, this most recent event on the Euro Tour was a true return to form. Let's talk about how much better it was. Now, to start off, it is by no means a truly comparable event. There was a lot more players that had a higher rating, but with that said, this is the first Euro Tour event that does offer European players a kind of similar instance of a Silver Series event where you get some Pro Tour points and a potential tour card for the year 2024. So there definitely is a lot on the line for players that are looking to get a swing on the US Tour, because it is certainly much more difficult than it has probably ever been, with all these players fighting to get a chance. And I know it sounds very confusing. There's Euro Tour, there's the Professional European Tour. There are two different things. There was the Nokia Open last weekend. That was not the event that Paul played. Paul was actually playing the Euro Tour Pro Forester. And I would say the main difference between last week's and this week's is there was a lot more Finnish representation in the Nokia Open, but not so much in the actual event that Paul played, the Pro Forester. So looking at his play, it was honestly pretty true to form. It felt like a 2017, 2018 Paul win, where it was just dominant fashion. There really wasn't anybody even really in contention, and Paul really wasn't looking like he was stressed out too much. That is certainly something to note here, is that he was really down in the dumps, I would say, based upon his social media posts and like how he was framing how the weekend went. So I think he really wanted to show himself that he can become the greatest player again. He just has to get some time practicing, getting himself back in the right mindset for it. And I think this was definitely that perfect opportunity to get him back in that flow and motion. And it definitely helps when the field is a lot worse. And with only 2 bogeys the entire tournament, there really wasn't any opportunity for Paul to really even slip up. And with an average rating about 1068 with a score of about 9.5 strokes under par, there really wasn't any possibility for him to fail. He was just so consistently good. And I think that really is great stuff for when he does come back to the US and will hopefully get some redemption, maybe some wins. Even if the nearest player was Jakub Semerad, who is a good player in the US, but definitely not quite what we would consider the elite levels. But with that said though, Jakub did actually play very, very well. Got a 2nd place finish, averaged about 1050. Definitely that is a much higher rating than we have really ever seen him on the US Tour. So I really love to see these European players get back into their rhythm and back into what makes them the greatest, because these European players, while they may not be Paul levels of greatness, they do play tremendous disc golf. And there are so often times where players like Jakub or Evelina just get whatever mental battles they face and they just kind of falter and choke a little bit in the US. But I know that they are just so much better than what they present themselves as. There's just a lot of mental factors going into play, and so I really love to see them get back to where their median is, which is phenomenal disc golf. So Paul is making it very easy to get a good birdie chance on basically every single hole. He actually didn't even have a single circle 2 putt in round 1 and 2, because he basically only had birdie looks the entire round 1 and 2, and so the only time he was ever really faltering was just a couple of missed C1 putts, but didn't even have any instances where there were opportunities to fall in C2. And with an insane 84-foot throw-in, these are just only types of shots that you can really do if you're feeling super confident about your game, and it's just tremendously insane to see him throw it in from a totally blind position. And it makes me so excited because he's definitely showing his creative style, which you don't often get to see in a lot of the US events. And in hilarious style, I would say his final round was kind of him coasting, and that coast was still 10 under, 4 circle 2 putts, and a 90% circle 1 and 1071 rated. And while I say he's coasting, he definitely is playing phenomenal. I think this particular course just lines up for very easy shots if you're feeling confident about your form and game. So there really wasn't moments where I felt like Paul was really putting himself out of position. It was basically just get off the tee, anywhere close to the basket, jam your putt, move on to the next hole, and that was that. There really wasn't that many opportunities to really go out of bounds because it was a very, very open course. And while there were some interesting sections to it, I do think in general it was a pretty lame and boring course, but I'd still love to see what that looks like on the European side, because there's so many times where I see that in the US side and I get kind of bummed. But with that new fresh eye of what the European courses look like, I do love to see it, even if the challenges are still kind of mundane. But overall, just a great performance by Paul, almost 30 under. And while this may not necessarily win if this was on the US Tour, I do think this would definitely be getting him a fighting chance at a win, which is more than you can say for a lot of other events this year. And it really does build that excitement to what Paul really can become in this new era where there's so much competition and so many great players in the scene. So thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think about Paul's return? Are you excited? Or kind of just it doesn't really count because it's Europe? I would love to hear about it. Also, be sure to check out the full uncut interview with me and James Proctor. It was a lot of fun. Link in the description for my Patreon. I appreciate you guys so much. And thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.